Several years ago, I had the worst Valentine's date of my life, okay? It was when I was actually really fat, 235 pounds to be exact. I had this girl come over. I had just met her like a couple weeks before at Starbucks, thought she was okay. That may be because of my lack of confidence at the time. But anyway, she was okay, compared to when she came over this particular night. She was more than okay in comparison. But anyway, she comes over. It was Valentine's Day. She comes over in a Burger King outfit. She smells like fries. She comments on the fact that her feet smell extremely badly. I made her some fish. I was already cooking. Why I made her some fish, I can't tell you that one. Anyway, we also ended up watching fish on the TV. She made comments like, do fish have sex? And she also said, this is all in a very high voice that I cannot imitate for the life of me. Do fish have sex? And then she asked me what I thought about their gills. I don't remember what I said, but I didn't have much to comment on as I was sitting there smelling her feet as I was eating my fish. At one point, when she sat down, and I forgot to mention this at the beginning, she mentions the fact that she has a glass eye, and that I can only sit on one side of her because that's the only eye she could see me out of. Needless to say, this date ended wonderfully, and it was one of the best Valentine's Day of my life. Also, we're back to the Health Humor Life podcast, a little bit different now, because I got bored with just doing health stuff, and I want to talk about way more stuff. So this is going to be a special Valentine's Day episode. We're going to talk about serious stuff, funny stuff, and greatness stuff. And Tyler is back joining me for those of you who have been with us since the beginning.
Yep. And, boom, here's the theme.
Help Humor Life, learn, laugh, and thrive. You're gonna laugh so hard it's gonna make you cry. The knowledge we provide will help you learn and thrive. So stay tuned now for a new episode as we turn off the beats and we start the show.
Here we go.
Wiki. So today, dude, I'm at a conference in work. I see some guy in the hallway, and he's like... He looks at me, and he's like, dude, how's that fucking fitness podcast? I'm like, yeah, I retired from that, dude, as you can tell. Patting my belly, he laughed. Little does you know, the fucking day he says that I come out of retirement.
FYI, Tyler's a little bit overweight for those of you who aren't aware of this. I've been training him.
Nope.
Hasn't been working.
You have not been training me, dude. And if you have, I haven't been listening to what you've been saying.
That's my point.
Okay.
So anyway, this is a Valentine's Day episode. I figured I'd bring Tyler back because for those of you that have been listening for a while, we have a few thousand or so. I can't remember the exact number at this point, but we did a podcast a while back on after it was actually our most popular one. It was after a specific incident happened in my relationship, my former relationship, over a year ago, actually. It was when I caught my ex-girlfriend cheating online, broke up with her immediately. We ended up getting back together, being together for a year. Thought it was a good decision for about a year. And now I think it was probably one of the worst decisions I've ever made. So we'll get into that. We'll get into that in that story. It's pretty crazy. And I also want to end on a lighter note today. So we'll kind of end on, what I learned from it, what I want to teach other people from it, and really kind of how I was able to handle this in a positive manner. Also last week, I opened up the podcast kind of half-jokingly. I thought one of the dogs pissed in the basement, in my office because it smelled terrible. And by God, I wish it was piss.
It was.
I am. Yeah, in a way it was, yeah. I wish it was just a small piddle of dog piss. But what it ended up being was a complete shitstorm. No exaggeration. Our entire sewer system backed up into our basement. And that was just the start of it, what I smelt that last week. So it's been kind of a nightmare. Now, you think that, having home insurance would cover this? Nope.
Unfortunately, it falls under that category that, it wasn't tree roots, was it, Tyler? That's how they send the phone. Oh, can't cover that, sorry. I'm like, okay, so I'm paying you hundreds of dollars monthly for homeowner insurance that I'm not able to use because this specific category is not covered.
Yeah, completely out of our control. You'd think that's what, insurance is for. Apparently, if someone had thrown a diaper down the toilet and that had clogged it, it would have been covered.
Or a toy. Or any type of object. If it was our fault and I don't get that shit. If it was our fault and we flushed something down the toilet and it got stuck and sewage, shit and piss water came out and just covered the basement like it did.
Yeah.
We'd be covered. If they dug a toy out It'd be covered. But because Mother Nature decided to grow that way, like, we're fucked.
Yeah, completely screwed. We've only had this house for a year. No control over the situation. Insurance does not give an F. Does not give an F. So we're kind of screwed at the moment. We may seek legal consult. I don't know yet. We're kind of playing it by ear. Keep you updated with that. What do you want to say, Tyler? You had a story about relationships, going into doors and stuff?
Oh, no. It's just this. Did the viewers know what happened?
About my situation?
Yes.
No, I guess maybe we can get into that first.
Yeah, we got to get into that first.
Okay, so I promised you guys the last couple episodes I get into it. And this is one way, like, it's kind of a very personal thing, and something like this happens, most people won't really open up about it. I've already opened up about it once on Facebook because I know that it, like, me being transparent and open about it will help someone out there I posted on Facebook to my friends list as well. But I did want to talk about it on this episode, and if you guys want to hear the story before, you can listen to the older episode titled, I don't know, something with Pat's lawn care and relationships.
Love, lawn care, relationships.
Yeah, it's a pretty, entertaining, emotional episode.
It's a long one.
Yes, it is. I was going to look for my story, but I'm just going to go remember it off the top of my head. So if I miss any holes, just fill it in.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, guys, I had a major intuitive moment. So for those of you who are spiritual, you probably know what that means. It's basically a voice in your head telling you something. So, like, when I got my dog, the week I got my dog, I had a very strong voice in my head telling me, get a dog, get a dog, get a dog. And I ended up looking him up and finding him. I'll tell that full story in a later episode. So anyway, I've had several experiences like this. You guys, many of you out there can probably relate. It's just like a voice in your head kind of telling you something really strongly. And this one, on this particular day, was very strong, like extremely strong. And it was voice telling me to, as I was walking down the stairs past my girlfriend at the time's room, it was telling me, look on her laptop. Look on her laptop. It was very powerful. And this went on for like 2 or 3 days, and I ignored it most of the time because I was like, why would I do that?
Real quick, you're not the type of guy to snoop around either.
No.
Like,
and that's a good point.
I don't think you've ever, like, I don't want this to come across like, oh, he's on her laptop when he's not supposed to be. Like Matt, I don't think you've ever snooped around. We've never been fearful of, like, the way we've viewed relationships over the past, how long, 5 years we lived together?
Yeah.
I would say, like, if there was someone that cheated on us, it was just their loss. Like, that's how we looked at it. So we're not the type of people to dig and snoop around and do all that stuff. So, just to continue your story, dude.
And yeah, that was how I felt throughout this whole ordeal. So to kind of touch on that, I had caught my girlfriend cheating about a year, or not cheating, but on an online dating site about a year before, after we'd only been dating a few months. I'd caught her on there. My friend had caught her on there. The whole story's on the podcast. And I had broken up with her right away after this happened. And then we ended up getting back together. And I actually, I told her, like, if we're going to do this, I'm going to have total access to all of your stuff fairly. Your phone, your computer, whatever.
How many times have you actually looked at that?
I'm getting to that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to have total access. She totally agreed to it, 100% agreed to it. I never used it once. And the reason I didn't use it once, because I said that I cannot be in a relationship if there's no trust there. So it's going to be me taking a risk to trust this person without checking up on them. I mainly said that at the time to see if she would actually agree to it. And she did. So that was part of the several reasons I decided to get back into this relationship. As you're about to see in a minute, probably wasn't a good idea. Wouldn't recommend it to anybody out there. So anyway, I get this strong voice to look on her laptop, and finally I give in. I'm like, okay, I can't really ignore this strong of an intuition. It's like very powerful at this point. Like literally it's like someone just tapping you on the floor telling you, go look at it, like really strong. So I was like, okay, I don't think I'm going to find anything, but I'm going to just look around since we had that agreement to begin with. So I go on there, and similar to the first time, my heart drops as I find many different things on the computer, including her having a sexual conversation with another guy on Facebook. I find emails from a few months back talking to her ex about potentially, having sex, whatever, random things like that, about love, just random things. And I also find an email of her planning to move out without telling me. Long story short, that's what I ended up finding, and I didn't really know what to think of it at first. I was like, okay, maybe this isn't as bad as I'm seeing, kind of thing. But as it kind of went longer, it really hit me as to how bad it was. And, I had a talk with Tyler when he got back, and we kind of realized that, this is terrible. She's kind of lying again. And, I told myself all throughout this that if anything was going to happen again, I was not going to stay in the relationship because it's complete getting rid of trust. There's no trust there. You get shooting foot once and come back like I did, that's one thing, but get shot in the foot twice, no way. And this is the first time When I broke up with her the first time and got back together with her, that was the only time I've ever done that for any girl I've dated. It's always been kind of a one-strike rule, because once someone does something like that, they're just going to end up doing it again in many cases. Like, it's pretty much in that particular relationship. You know, maybe in the future they'd learn and not do it, especially when they find a good relationship, you'd hope. But anyway, in this case, that's what I've learned, and I would never do that again. If someone is going to be at a betrayal like that, I would not do that. So anyway, it gets better. It gets worse, I should say. It gets worse. So I talked to...
Story gets better. Situation gets shittier.
Yeah. Literally. Well, this is... I ended up talking to my girlfriend on the phone. She's at work at this time. And I asked her... I don't remember exactly what was said via text. I had asked her about some certain things. If there's something she wanted me to talk to me about, I was trying to get it out of her. And she wouldn't talk to me about it. She wouldn't have it. So I'm actually going to say the story. Let me start over in a different way. So this is kind of part of what I've written and part of what I'll kind of add to it with my own vocals. This is what I wrote shortly after the incident happened, where I was getting out all my thoughts. I'm still in shock over the last 48 hours. As a woman I once considered the love of my life performed the ultimate betrayal in a series of events that went way beyond what I ever expected. Not only did I lose a woman I once loved, I lost a wonderful 2-year-old girl whom I had fallen in love with over the last 16 months. I was attacked in my own home in a mess that I thought was going to be blamed on me. To top it off, I watched this person I once loved, who had turned into someone I truly do not know, be brought out of my house in handcuffs, which was just a crazy situation in itself and unexpected. It started 2 days ago as I was getting ready to go down to my office and work on my coaching business. A strong intuitive voice in my head came over me, which had come over me the night before as well, and which I thought nothing of it at the time. This voice grew stronger the next morning as it said, "Look at her laptop, look at her laptop." I was really perplexed, as I didn't know why I was getting such a strong push to do this, as everything seemed normal from my perspective at the time during this relationship. I recalled how I had forgiven this woman in a major way in the past after catching her on a dating site. I recalled that we had an agreement as part of getting back together, I would have full access if desired to look at her phone. We got back together after that incident, and I never took advantage of that agreement. My thinking was that if I can't trust this woman, then there is no point staying together. So I never looked at anything until 2 days ago, as this voice was egging me on to do it. And 2 days ago, meaning this was written, shortly after the incident. So it's been a few weeks now. I sat in my office as my heart was pounding in shock at what I was reading. She had been talking sexually with another guy on Facebook, saying she didn't have a boyfriend, as well as planning to meet up with this guy. She was also planning to move out behind my back, and finally, she was also sending emails to her ex in regards to still wanting to make love and be together. I spoke to my best friends, thank God for them, Tyler included, right here, about these findings, and they helped me decide what the best course of action would be. My ex and I planned on talking that night. However, it ended up in a full-out phone conversation while she was at work, because she didn't want to wait to talk about it, kind of thing. The worst part about all this was she lied over and over again to me on the phone with no remorse, was thinking of at the time as a complete sociopathic innocence. So sociopathic meaning she really just did not care, until she knew I had irrefutable proof. So I literally had the conversation in my hand. And then, even then, to my disbelief, she still tried to play a victim. Meanwhile, she had even gone as far as deleting the Facebook conversation while she was at work, and while she was continuously denying what she did to me. I had saved it before she deleted it. I called her out on everything, and it ended right away. She was living with me, so I said she could have until the end of the month to pack her belongings. You'd think that would be the end of it right there. Well, that was only the start of it, unfortunately. What I'm about to tell you guys is something I never thought I would ever have to deal with, or anything in my life even close to it. So she came into my room later that night to ask when she had to move out. I was laying on my bed, and I'd answered just as I had earlier that day. Said that by the end of the month, I'd prefer she be out. She remained in the room. I asked, "Is there anything else?" She began walking out and then charged back in, and an argument began. It escalated to both of us yelling back and forth, and then suddenly, to my utmost shock and disbelief, she approached swiftly towards me and took several shots at my face. I grabbed her arms in defense of myself to prevent the punches. And then in one moment, that still blows me away even thinking about it right now, to flash back to it, she twists herself around and throws herself on the soft part of the couch, and then rolls on the floor, grabbing her neck, yelling and screaming that I had just assaulted her. I literally could not believe what I was witnessing, and that this person I had dated for 16 months, who considers herself this positive spiritual person, and who often honestly came off that to me. I always came off as a good person in most situations. And she's a mother to this amazing 2-year-old girl, was capable of these, how I described it here, incomprehensible acts. I immediately called my best friend and roommate into the room after this, after she was, claiming I just assaulted her, and who had he had heard the argument the next room over. She made a couple of additional attempts to lunge forward while my roommate was in the room, but pulled back because Tyler was in the room. She goes downstairs shortly thereafter and tells her dad via phone she had just been assaulted, which was obviously not true. So I put in parentheses here, I've realized in recent days that she is somewhat of a master manipulator, is how she was coming off to me in, the last few weeks there, and knows how to turn a situation away from her and onto someone else. And I've realized, towards the last few weeks that she was always blaming stuff on the world and not kind of taking responsibility for her actions. That's what I noticed. And this situation kind of really just reflects that. To my immediate and complete disbelief afterwards, she yells upstairs that the cops have been called. So I was like, I've never dealt with the cops in my life. I've never been in a fight with a dude in my life. Because I'm just not a fighter. I've been confronted with fights before, and I've literally just talked out of them because I don't see a point in it. So anyway, I said, are you serious? I literally thought I was going to be completely screwed over with the cops coming for doing nothing wrong. I decided I would simply stay calm and state my honest truth, and that's all I could really do during this time. So I went downstairs, sat on the couch with Tyler in the living room, and just waited for the cops to arrive. And I had no idea how this whole process worked or how any of these laws worked. I know kind of how it works now. But at the time, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to tell my honest story, and that's all I can do in this situation. So the cops finally did arrive. They took us in separate rooms and heard both of our stories. My former girlfriend was yelling as the cops arrived, I'm unsafe, I need an escort. The top of her lungs, crying or whatever else, saying in a panic. Meanwhile, everybody was sitting calmly on the couch. There was her 2-year-old daughter was completely in the other room, not being watched by her. And my, Tyler's brother, my roommate's brother, was actually watching her and his girlfriend because she had been not paying attention to her during this whole shenanigan. I was as calm, cool, and collected as I could be and told the officer the story as best as I could, taking him upstairs and showing him where it had taken place, as I've just described in this book. I have no idea what she told the police, however, the cops stated to me that the stories matched up. I was sitting with my best friend in the living room, Tyler, as we suddenly heard them discussing transport. So I began to get a little nervous because I figured in these situations the guy often gets blamed, which is, I'm sure, is what my ex thought would happen by calling the cops, or by her dad calling the cops. So Tyler and I looked at each other with shocked and wide open eyes as we heard the sound of handcuffs being placed on my ex-girlfriend. As they stated, she was under arrest and automatically being charged with domestic assault via Maine law. So Maine presses the charges without the victim having to do anything. I put in parentheses here, if this is direct karma at work, if this isn't direct karma at work, I do not know what is. The officer came and explained the situation to my best friend and I, as she is not to have contact with me or come to the property, or she'll be detained. Now comes the worst part of this entire event, which brings me to tears when I'm saying it and writing it. The 2-year-old girl was left in the house without her mother, who had just performed the act that she had performed. Thankfully, my other roommates had been taking care of her and comforting her, despite my former girlfriend yelling to the cops that she is unsafe during this time. After we were done the paperwork with the cops, I walked into my roommate's room, where the 2-year-old was and immediately lost it with tears. I had realized how close I had grown to this little girl and realized I probably wouldn't ever see her again after tonight. My best friend had grown very close to her as well. I gave her a big long hug. This always chokes me up. I gave her a big long hug with tears I couldn't control, telling her that I'm sorry and that I loved her. She didn't understand what was happening and that we would probably never see her again. I believe she said the same thing to Tyler when he drove to drop her off. She told you that she loved you, right, when you dropped her off? Yeah. It was the agreement of the police and Tyler that he would drive the little one to her grandfather's house, and that is what happened as I said one last goodbye. This ended a series of events I never thought I would have to go through or experience. I never thought someone would ever put me in a situation of being accused of hitting someone else, and especially hitting a woman. It's something that is just unthinkable to me and something I would never even fathom the thought of doing, ever. And the truth is, I want to make a point out of this, that domestic assault goes both ways, and I witnessed that, that night when I was physically attacked. The other truth is that you never truly know someone until after many years of being together. I know this isn't exactly a positive Valentine's Day message, but I'll be getting to the positive part after. I'm beyond thankful and grateful that the police did their job wonderfully and they came to the right conclusion during this event. I feel like I could have just as easily been framed for this situation and ended up in a much worse one. After I made this post on Facebook, I had people reach out to me explaining their situations where they actually ended up in a much worse position. So I sit here still in shock and disbelief, reflecting on the lessons learned during this entire experience. I wish no harm or negativity on my ex or anyone, and I hope that she came to some realizations in her life with this experience as well. right here, why am I sharing this? Is because I believe in openness and I want to be able to help other people by sharing this really very personal story of mine. You know, I'm usually an open book and I'm willing to talk about anything. And this is just, you know, this is one of those things that's definitely on the harder end to discuss, but I wanted to put it out there. For those of you who part of my Facebook social community there, you've probably heard the story before, but for you guys that are just podcast listeners, this is probably the first time. With that said, you know, I learned a lot throughout this entire relationship, even despite, you know, not the greatest decision to kind of get back in it after everything happened. And that's something that will probably not happen again, just because it's just way more prone to happen afterwards. I did a lot of, you know, growth spiritually throughout this and a lot of self-work. And my ex actually really helped me with that a lot, ironically. And in all honesty, most of the relationship was very, you know, positive from my perspective. I know that she was, as we found out, holding a lot in and kind of not communicating about whatever was going on inside her, and that's unfortunate. But from my perspective, a lot of it was very, you know, it was very positive. I learned a lot from it, and I had a lot of fun during it. And it's crazy to me that the same person that I was dating for 16 months actually performed these actions. Like, it blows me away to think about it even now. But the one thing I've learned throughout, you know, my growing spiritual journey throughout this, and not just in this relationship, it just happened to be the time that I was, you know, growing spiritually and learning more about myself. So when I first met this ex-girlfriend, I was very closed off. I was very, you know, I didn't realize it, but I was very closed off to love. And I kind of had my blocks up, which I know a lot of people out there have or have experienced.
We also talked about that in our last one, the blocks and stuff. Because I mentioned my father's quote, like, you know, you stick your hand in the hole and you get bit. How many times do you stick your hand back in the hole?
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? So we did talk about the blocks beforehand. Going back to this, dude, like there's people in this house that would not tolerate a violent confrontation within it.
Yeah.
And that's what
I wouldn't tolerate it.
Right. That's like, so I don't get that. Like, I don't. Anyways, yeah. Continue, dude. Continue what you were saying. You were talking about how you were blocked off beforehand. I know you lost.
So yeah, I was very blocked off before then, and this girl I was in a relationship really helped open me up, as well as, you know, many other experiences I had throughout this. Opened kind of my heart up to love. Of course, it was shut right down after. But no, it was shut down after by her actions a little bit, but then again, it wasn't. You know, the odd thing about this whole situation is, you know, I've done a lot of, throughout the spiritual growing I've done throughout this, like, for whatever reason, I don't feel closed off after this experience to love. I feel like I know why this happened. I know what I was supposed to get out of it. And those are the lessons I learned from being in this relationship. So right now, you know, I'm back in the dating world, you know, nothing serious, just casually talking with people, getting to know people, not really rushing into anything serious, but then again, not closed off to anything serious either. And I feel very, very much like I would be open to another, you know, loving relationship, as hard as that might seem to say after something like this. And that's kind of the point I want to bring throughout this Valentine's Day podcast is, you know, you definitely want to be cautious about who you love and who you kind of, you know, let your heart out to. But, you know, at the same time, you can't be afraid to kind of open up. If that's your goal, to have a long-term loving relationship, you can't be afraid to kind of open your heart despite negative past experiences and kind of dive into a relationship with the right person, not being fearful or afraid to kind of open up and be fully open with that person. And I'm losing my train of thought, just be fully loving with that person. And that's kind of what I've learned out of it.
So one thing that she would preach often about was how if you have something going on where you're scarred from a past relationship, or if something went wrong, or you have your own issues, your own demons or whatever, like, you need to bring that out to the table when you're dating someone, because, you know, when you're in a new relationship with someone, the past bullshit in your past life isn't their problem. I had a bad relationship. My first girlfriend cheated on me. So I can't bring that.
Many a bad ones.
Dude, you're ruining it. Again, you do this every time.
I believe that story of one of Tyler's really bad breakups is on the last podcast, if you want to hear about it.
Yeah. I'm not going to bring that to the table if I meet someone new and immediately start freaking out and thinking that they're cheating on me.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to have a clean slate when you start with someone, and I don't know what happened, because I think that, you know, deep down, she was a positive person and wanted to be a positive person. But when you hold in so much shit for so many years and so many bad relationships or whatever she was going through, shit comes out in a different form, and it came out in this form.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Like I said, it was very hard to it's very hard to fathom that the same woman I dated was the same woman that performed these actions.
Right, but it's like, it's weird, dude, because it's like when you've been treated a certain way for so long, you start to believe shit about yourself that's not true.
Yep.
And that literally damages you for the rest of your life. So I'm not saying I'm justifying what happened that night, but I'm saying that she had a lot of issues that she could have brought to the table that you guys could have worked out together, and it didn't have to end the way it did.
Absolutely. A lot was held in. A lot was, she had spoken to me when we first got in a relationship about communicating and being more open, and, I worked on that the entire time. Like, I was an open book with her by towards the end of it. But I was not getting the same reciprocation, unfortunately, and that ended up in being a complete loss of communication, and just, this is what ended up happening out of it. And I was going to make a point a second ago. If you're bringing your past to a relationship, if you're about to get in a relationship with someone, you still have a lot of those deep issues, I would recommend spending time working on yourself, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, whether it be talking to a therapist or, just meditating, getting to know yourself within, being able to release these issues. And a lot of these issues can be released, just from talking and talking them out. I work in the mental health field, and I've had some of my clients who held on to these things that were bothering them, like these significant traumatic events. They've held on to them for years and years. And one in particular, a few weeks back, said she finally told her therapist about it, and it felt like a huge weight off her shoulders. The way I've done a lot of this is through spirituality, going to see my intuitive healer, doing certain past life regression techniques, or just not even that, just doing kind of clearing spiritual blocks through Reiki, or through even a process called Psych K, which we'll be talking about on a future episode.
It helps when it's just me and you having a beer.
Yeah, just talking to a friend, having a beer. It can be as simple as that. Just being really open and honest with yourself and with someone around you really just helps to heal. And that way, if you're open and honest, with not only people around you that you feel comfortable and close to, but with the next person you're going to be in a relationship with, it has to go both ways, but that's just going to help things so much more. Just be completely open about how you guys are feeling. And I understand in the dating world, especially nowadays, it can be really tough, especially when you're first getting to know someone, to be completely honest, because it's a big game, honestly, and it does get annoying sometimes. But it's once you find the right person, and you feel comfortable enough to open up like that, that's where you should be. That's where I feel like I'm going to be spending my time and effort on. I don't want to speak for you guys. I was going to say you, but I don't want to say that because everybody has to make their own decisions on this stuff. But if I meet a person I'm fully comfortable with, I'm fully feel like I can open up with, like, honestly, my ex, I did it at first too. And if she hadn't performed these actions, if she was the person she was most of the relationship, in truth, then it probably would have worked out. But that wasn't the case. But I judge by the way I feel in my next relationship as how I will open up, if that makes sense.
I feel like communication is extremely important. Like, it's the most important thing.
Yeah. Open and honest communication.
Because I think that if one person is thinking something and they're dwelling on it all day, and that information is already incorrect, they're dwelling on something that's not true.
Exactly, yeah.
And they're fuming on it. And it comes down to it when you finally meet that person, or that night when you guys get together, both people, like, one person's in a shitty mood, the other person is going to be in a shitty mood because that person's going to rub off on them. They're going to get into an argument. It's going to be butt heads, and it's all because of something that's not even fucking true in the first place.
Yep. And you know what? I used to do that kind of stuff too in my younger days with relationships, and I've since learned to just, if something's bothering you, just kind of open up about it. Open up about it, talk to them about it, because every time I've done this, every time I've opened up and talked to the person about it, I've felt 1,000,000 times better.
And it was 90% of the time not the shit you thought
exactly.
it was.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So always be open and honest, guys, in a relationship. If you're not able to do that with someone, it may not be the best relationship. It's a major lesson I've learned. Yeah, especially if you're meeting new girls, it might not be the best idea to tell them about the fact that your basement's full of shit at the moment.
Well, that's actually a good card to play. Do you want to come over and swim in my shit pool?
Yeah, and if they do come over, I recommend lighting a lot of candles. Maybe put a scent thing in your room because, yeah, it smells.
Yeah, it's starting to seep up. Oh my god, I'm not even looking forward to it.
Yeah, so, to end on a more positive note.
This isn't positive. There's nothing positive about this. Our basement's full of shit, Matthew.
Yeah, it's terrible, but, to end on a more positive note, the main point I wanted to get across is,
you'll find love! You guys have a good night. Signing off. No.
And trust me, everybody that's struggling with, believing in love and everything out there, relating to that, I totally get it. Trust me, I totally understand. But a lot of what goes on, and some of you may or may not believe this, but this is something I've believed in and truly experienced in my life, is you are what you believe, and you will attract what you have in your mind. So if you're having all these negative thoughts in your mind, or you're having all these negative thoughts about relationships in your mind, you're going to attract negative relationships. If you're more focused on the positives and the potential positive partner you could potentially find, you will attract a more positive partner. And this is what I'm going to be focusing on from here on out. And with the dating world, I just don't put any expectations on it. I just be positive, have fun. Whatever's meant to be will be meant to be.
Like when we were talking before this, you were like, I don't have any expectations. And that's how you got to look at it. Because, there's billions of people out there. And
many of which you could have a connection with.
Right, right. But at the same time, it's like, something doesn't work out, is no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Absolutely. So on that note, it's late, and I got to edit this podcast tonight, so we're going to end it pretty much right here. Unless Tyler's got anything else to say. We will be, I guess, cleaning lots of feces and piss out of our basement this weekend, which I can't wait.
Well, okay. Well, let's clear up some things here. There's no longer floating logs of shit in our basement. There's also no longer piss puddles. Okay, this is what we're dealing with, folks, as Colby Roy would say. All the sewage is now gone, and it's just the lovely stench of mildew shit piss that's just like stinking up the basement because of the carpet that we have down there, bolted to the goddamn floor, has been soaked with shit and piss. We don't know how many times.
Yeah.
Probably every fucking day since we've been here, and we didn't even know. So that carpet's coming out. I gotta rip that shit up. Probably gonna do that Saturday, not gonna lie. Might as well just get it done. Bring cutters and cut that shit up.
Yeah.
I went to go wash my blanket, Matt, and it looked like I wiped my ass with it. I was like, jeez, oh, what mirth! This is. I was gonna put it in the washer and be like, hey, this is my favorite blanket. I'm gonna put it in the wash. I'm gonna salvage what's left of this.
You lost your favorite blanket?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tragedy right there.
Yeah, it pisses me off. I went to go put it in the washer, and I was like, man, I don't even want to put this in the washer because I'm gonna lose my favorite washer. My favorite washer is way more important than my favorite blanket. But it's like, it is what it is, dude.
Yeah, so it's one of those things we've dealt with.
There's a reason.
Yeah, I'm always looking for the reason as to why I'm experiencing certain things. With the whole situation I just described to you guys, I see what I learned from it. I see the reason, but I yet don't understand what having shit and piss in my basement is teaching me yet. So once I learned that,
I'll tell you what it's teaching us, to clean the fucking roots out of the sewer pipe. That's what it's teaching.
Once I learned that lesson, I'll keep you guys posted on that. So yeah,
the fact that we can laugh about this though.
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
Dude, we got an estimate. We got like $30,000 to $50,000 worth of damages. No one laughs at that, but us. The fact that I don't know. We get through it. Like, I literally came into Matt's room today, and I was like, dude, I am like beat to hell, exhausted, stressing out about this. And he was like, yes, me too. And he was like laying down in his bed.
Yeah, I literally had a stress headache from it, from going back and forth with insurance today, contacting, whoever to help us. No luck. No luck yet.
It's difficult, man, but it's like I feel like every situation you have to laugh at because, if it's...
Yeah, fine.
This is going to be a funny story. It's a funny story now. It's just going to be way funnier once there's no shit left on my floor.
Yeah, and that's what I try to do all the time too. That we both try to do. We find humor in every situation, even if it's like terrible. Like, I went on to a dating event last week, and I was telling people about it because it had just happened, and they were like, "Oh my god, that's terrible. I feel so bad for you." And I was kind of laughing it off. I was like, "Whatever, we'll figure out the shit in my basement, okay?" And just keeping a positive attitude about it. And that's just that's what I've done throughout this whole breakup. That's what I've done throughout that. And trust me, it's not always been easy, and it's never always perfect at all. But the more you're able to gravitate yourselves towards the positive side of things, the better off things will be.
You know what they say, Matt? Shit happens.
And on that note, I decided to go back to the Health Humor Life name because I was tired of just talking about straight health, because I have way more topics I want to talk about, okay? I had a very interesting girl.
Who are you arguing with? It sounds like you're arguing.
No.
Okay. I want to talk about something.
All right, this is an internal argument with myself the last few days. Because I was like, come on, should I do the Health Humor Life name? Should I do Short Simple Health? The reason I went to Short Simple Health was because when you're
It was
doing
short.
podcasts and businesses like that, you kind of niche down, you niche into one thing. But then again, after talking to, a few different people, it's just, I always felt that I wasn't giving all of myself. I enjoy a lot of different things like comedy, music, paranormal, and, holistic health, of course, will be a huge part of this. And just simple humor.
Let's be honest, too, dude. I was missed. I was missed, and now I'm back, and we're going to be doing this every week again.
Yeah, I told Tyler he's welcome to join me whenever he wants. So,
no, it's back to weekly thing. I guess I'll bring the editing thing out, dude, and start doing that for you. Hope I don't get fired again. I didn't get fired. That's not what happened.
So, yeah, we'll be back. If you guys want any topics you want us to talk about, I have a few coming up. As I said, I just interviewed a girl who has a story about being abducted by aliens in the past, and that may seem crazy to a lot of you. Trust me, it's a pretty crazy story, but we talk about it like it's normal on there, because actually, in the spiritual world, it's a common occurrence. Whether it's real or not, you can listen to it, be entertained by it. Either way, it's a great story, and she has a lot of insight. She does a lot of different teachings online too. She's a psychic medium, does channeling. She's an awesome girl, amazing conversation. We talk about a million different things, and that is going to be played within the next couple weeks here. All right, guys, thanks for joining us on the Returning Health, Humor, Life podcast. There will be plenty of health coming at you soon, and there'll be plenty more too.
I'm Tyler.
I'm at Michael, guys, and we'll see you for another topic next week on the Health, Humor, Life podcast. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast or any of our other podcasts, do us a favor and leave us a positive 5-star review on iTunes. Helps us move up the charts and help and entertain more people. See you next time, guys.